This is going to be part 3 of the series of tutorials for constructing our city spell. In the previous part, by the end of part 2, we got to step number 48 where we added this gem 08 just to make sure of the hierarchy. Gem 08 is a prefab that we got from the teacher's pack. It is inside and with a reset position inside a parent called gem, which has its own position inside a single treasure, which has another few sets of parameters, including a rigid body with no gravity. And single treasure is a child of a container called treasures, which for right now is just an empty, or it's not so empty, but it's just a container. So back to the guide, we just completed step number 48. We put gem in there, we checked that the material is right, and we're up to step number 49. We're going to add some kind of like a magic effect to it. And it's going to be in the teacher's asset in a folder, again, that came for free from the asset store called KYFX. Magic effects free from the prefabs folder, something called Frameball. We're going to drag it into gem, not into gem 08. In other words, it's going to be a sibling to gem 08, and it's called Frameball. And don't forget the scaling mode. I highlighted the two things that we're going to change about it. So first of all, let's find it. So it's going to be in the teacher set. It's going to be in KYFX, Magic Effects Free, Prefabs, and here's Frameball, and I'm dragging it to be a child of gem. In other words, a sibling. You see that's the effect I'm going for. A sibling for gem 08. To make sure that it's in place, I'm going to reset its position, and then let's look at what it really needs to have. The only thing that I'm really changing about it is giving it a scale of, a rotation of 90 on the Z, because right now it's facing sideways and I need it to face like upwards, and also scaling it to be 3 times bigger. Now, it's only going to work. So first of all, let's give it the 90. Just to show you why we're giving it the 90 degrees Z. If I look at it from above, or even better yet, from the side, I can see that all those bubbles are going up. Without the Z90, they would be going sideways. That's why we're giving it Z90. So all those, sparks, whatever, are going up. Also, I'm going to change its scale to 3 by 3 by 3 because I want it to be bigger. The only problem is that it doesn't look like it got bigger unless we change its scaling mode to local. I want to show you something. If the scaling mode, actually it's already local, probably because that's the way I brought it in. No, its shape needs to be local. And now it got bigger. Without scaling mode local, it doesn't really obey the scale here. So scaling mode needs to be local. It's scaled compared to local. This is what it's going to look like, through the camera. That's what I want to look like, a magic gem. Everything else stays the same. Step number 50. Inside the Frameball, there's already a point light. We're going to change its settings. Don't forget rendering mode important. So let me make this narrow so I can see what I'm doing and move this so I can see both of them at the same time. So inside Frameball, there's already a point light. And that point light needs to have these settings. So the position is pretty much already what it needs to be. I don't need to change anything about this. The light is already a point light. Its range, I don't want it to be too big, so I'm going to change it to 5. And also the color, I want it to match the color of the gem, so it's going to be some kind of a light red. Something like this. It's going to be mixed. Its intensity is going to be 2. So nothing else is changing here. Going to make sure it makes no shadows. I don't need it to make shadows. But very important to change the rendering mode to important. That way it always renders even when it's mixed with other lights. And save. Going back to the guide. Now, inside the gem, the container gem, we're going to create a spotlight. As a matter of fact, we're going to end up with 3 spotlights, but this is going to be one of them. It's not inside gem 08. It will be the third child of gem. We're going to give it these settings. So again, let me move it to the side. So gem already has 2 children, gem 08 and frameball, and now it's going to have a third child, which is going to be a spotlight. I want 3 spotlights to shine basically around this gem, like third, and later on we're also going to make this gem rotate, so it's going to rotate kind of like, police lights, which is going to make it easier when those lights shine on their surroundings to find the gem. Even if you're like behind the building, you're going to see like the glow of the moving lights. So that spotlight, let's give it all those parameters. Z negative 0.95. It's a spotlight. Its range is going to be 30. Its spot angle is going to be 60. Its color is going to be bright red. Mode mixed. Intensity 1, all these numbers stay the same, no shadows, and also change the rendering modes to important. What I want to show you is that if we look at it from above, especially if we turn on the gizmos, you can see that this spotlight, let's do this, see how it shines on the gem and then beyond it. So what we're going to do now is duplicate this and place it so one of them is facing this way, the other on this way, the other one this way, and they have like a triangle of lights shining on it to kind of like, take advantage of how shiny the gem is, and also around it. So once I've done that, we're going to duplicate the spotlight and give it these settings. And notice that not too many changes are made. There's a few little changes that are made in the position and a change in color. Everything else is not changed. So position, rotation, and color. So spotlight and edit. Duplicate. What's changed on the duplicate? 0.5 on the Z. 0 on the Y, and -1 on the X. See how it's already like, if this is the first one, this is the second one, and the third one is going to be here. But I need to also rotate it to look back at the gem, which is why there's a Y rotation of 120 degrees. So it rotates back on the gem. And then a third spotlight. Let's duplicate this one. Again, with only position, rotation, and color change. So, I didn't change the color of this one. It needed to be changed to some kind of like magenta or purple. This is, of course, changed to taste. Close enough. And then the third one will be kind of like golden color. I just didn't want it to look too much like police cars, like, red and blue. And the third one is going to have also 0.50, but instead of -1, it's going to have 1, which is going to place it here. See how like we create a perfect triangle around them, but it needs to look back at the gem, which is why it's going to have a rotation of 240 degrees. So each one of the spotlights is pointing basically like inwards, but also through the gem outwards. Name all 3 spotlights 1, 2, 3. instead of spotlight, parentheses 1 and so on, spotlight 1, spotlight 2, and spotlight 3, back to the guide. And the hierarchy should look like this: Gem with 5 children, Gem with 5 children, Gem 08, frame ball, and 3 spotlights. Then here's something that we can disable later. We're going to add another child, a 6th child. We're going to add to Gem a 6th child, as a child, a cylinder. We're going to call it beam. Here's the reasoning behind it. Gem, right click, 3D object, cylinder. And you see how it's like, just in the middle of it. We're going to call it beam. The idea is that I found that especially for, beginners, or if we hide the gems really, the city is like a mile wide and a mile, deep. If we hide those gems too well, it might take hours to find them. So as kind of a clue as to where they are, we're adding a beam of light that shines basically into the sky. That'll make it easier. If we look at the sky, we'll be able to find those beams. Later on, we can decide if that makes the game too easy and we can just disable it. But for right now, just to have it, it'll be the 6th child. We're going to give it the transform 0. I'm looking here. 100.38. I'll explain why this weird number in a second. And y 100. The other thing that it's going to have is an x of 0. It needs to be very, very thin. 0. Sorry, not 1,000, but 100. Sorry. 0.02, which is like 2 centimeters, a little less than an inch, and also z 0.02. Here's the idea. This beam, if I go back to full rendering, you can already see that it's kind of shining out of this. If I go back to full rendering and I turn this around, I can see that this is like a beam that shines all the way to the sky. Now, why is its y, does its y need to be is back 100.38? Because if I look at the gem exactly from the side, this is what makes it come out of the top of the gem. If it was any more or less, it would not be exactly at the top. So this is how I found this number. The only thing that's left is to give it a very nice material, and we're going to give it an unlit material. And remember, unlit, and very important, remember to disable the capsule collider. We do not need either disable. I will actually delete the capsule collider. It does not, we do not need to collide with it. In my materials, we're going to create a beam material. My materials, create material beam mat, which of course we're going to give to the beam. Right now it still looks very default. Now, the main thing we're going to change is we're going to change to a shader instead of standard. It's going to be a shader from the family called unlit, and it's based only on color because it doesn't have a texture, which means it has very few parameters. The one parameter is going to be bright red. Just change the color to be the reddest red you can find. And here's where we have now like a red beam. The reason we want it unlit is so it has like its own light. It doesn't rely on being lit from other outside sources. Everything else will stay the same. So we just completed step number 37. Then we are pretty much done with Gem. Gem has its 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children. It's also going to end up having, single treasure is going to end up having more children and a script, but gem is done. So it tells us to go back to single treasure and add another child. It's going to be its second child. So going back to single treasure, add a child, an empty game object. We're going to call it vanish container. Now here's the idea. Vanish container. The deal is that, like we've done in the past, if I actually manage to catch the gem, I want the gem to disappear and the vanish container with like a whoosh or like a magic effect to appear instead. Like we've done, when we shot a target and an explosion appeared instead of its regular shape. So this vanish container, so it's a sibling to gem, and we're going to give it this transform and an audio source. So its transform is going to be basically reset, except it's 1.5 meters in the air, just like the gem. So reset, but put it 1.5 meters in the air. So you see it's like in the center of the gem. And we're also going to give it an audio source because we want it to make a nice sound when we catch it. So add component, audio source, with the following settings. The sound we're going to give it is magic. It's going to play on awake, so as soon as it's activated, it plays, and everything else is default, except the spatial blend will be 3D. I want the sound to come from the 3D position of this, wherever it is. If it's a little to my right, it'll sound like it's coming from the right. So I'm going to find the audio source called magic. If my speakers were on, you would hear it. Here it is. That's the sound. And the only change I am making, it is going to stay play on awake. The only other change I'm making is spatial blend all the way up. Maybe almost all the way up. And save. We also want to have a specific effect for it. We're going to find in that same KY effects, magic effects, something called energy blast. We're going to drag it as a child into vanish container. So KY effects, magic prefabs, and it's energy blast. Those are very nice effects, and they don't work in URP, which is one of the reasons we're using the built-in render pipe. So Vanish Container now has a child. It's not exactly in place, so we're going to give it the right parameters. So it needs to be, let me reset and just put in these numbers. 0, 0, 0, it's exactly the center of its parent. As far as X, it's going to have 1.72 of a degree. And especially the more important thing would be that it has a negative 90 degrees on the Y and a negative and a positive degree of. So when I play it, it disperses exactly the way I want. Also, its color is the same. Its scaling mode is shape. Okay, everything else the same. Good. 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. Good. Everything else is the same. So we're going to disable the Vanish Container, not the energy blast, but its parent, the Vanish Container, is going to be initially disabled. So when we open up everything, our hierarchy should look exactly like the screenshot. We got single treasure. It's got two main children, Gem and Vanish Container. Gem has 1, 2, second child, which is the frame ball. I'm just opening all of this up to check that my hierarchy is exactly the same. And last but not least, we're almost done. We're going to create a My Prefabs folder, and we're going to turn single treasure, not treasure. So now, our one single treasure is ready. The only thing that it's going to actually have that we haven't given it yet is a script. We're going to give it that script later on. But single treasure, if we, followed all the instructions, if I forgot something, I'm going to add it in a later stage. But it now needs to become a prefab, so we can have several instances of it, and when we change the prefab, it changes all the instances. So since I don't think we have a My Prefabs folder yet, I think we don't. We have My Materials, but we don't have My Prefabs. So Assets, right click, create folder, My Prefabs, and going to open it, going to take single treasure, not treasures, and not, in other words, don't go too far above or below. Single treasure is the one that becomes a prefab. Now look, create a My Prefabs folder, turn a single treasure, not treasure, into a prefab by dragging into this folder. Then we're going to duplicate it 4 more times, so there are 5 of them. And we're going to name them single treasure 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all going to be, of course, inside the container called treasures. So first of all, let's call this single treasure 1. And if we edit, duplicate, I can either drag more or duplicate, either or. And 1, 2, third one, fourth one, fifth one. We need a total of 5. Let me rename them. Those are the treasures that we're going to scatter, to hide somewhere throughout the city. In the instructions, it tells you in this little table exactly where to put them. So, for instance, single treasure 1, if I do this and make room, single treasure 1, they're all going to, most of them are going to be at Y0. So they're going to be, where they, as far as height, where they are right now. The main thing is going to change between them is where they are in the city. Like, for instance, number 1 is going to be X 4.8 and Y negative 0.5, which is where it is right now. I'm going to switch to this and show you that it actually puts this single treasure a little off to the side. Let's do the second one. It's going to be 6 meters to the right and 22 meters deep, which puts it here. So I'll have to go through this passageway to find it. I'm going to stop this tutorial now because I trust that you can apply these numbers, and I will meet you in the next tutorial, which is going to be the beginning of stage 2. So if you just position all those 5 treasures in their place, that will be the time to zip your project and submit it. Remember, as always, if you're zipping it and it's bigger than 2 gigabytes, then delete the library folder and only the library folder, zip again, and it should be much smaller, and submit it by the due date that you see in your course shell.